Ruben here, and welcome to this week's Samplecast. Tons in the show this week. We've got a composer interview with Sid de la Cruz, where he's going to dish the dirt on Trevor Morris and Hans Zimmer. And we've also got a review of a new piano library from Synthogy. Hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Of course, there's also developer updates, freebies, bargains, and we're going to kick off with this week's news.
Interview.
This week's composer interview is with Sid de la Cruz, who this week has allowed us to peek into his composing world as he puts the score together for a brand new movie. He's previously worked with Hans Zimmer and Trevor Morris, and this week's interview gives a really interesting insight into the working processes of both of those composers, and obviously Sid himself.
Hello everyone. First off, I want to thank Ruben and the Samplecast for welcoming me to the show. The Samplecast has been a great place to hear about all the new and up-and-coming plugins and libraries and things like that. The show has definitely helped me become more aware of all these kind of things that, otherwise I wouldn't have known that existed. So a little bit about me. My name is Sid de la Cruz. I studied music composition over at San Jose State University. Once I graduated, I was offered a fellowship to study at Claremont Graduate University, where I received my master's, also in music composition. During my last semester at Claremont, I was attending the UCLA film scoring program. And once I finished that, I was hired by Trevor Morris. I've also had the opportunity to intern over at Remote Control Productions, which happens to be Hans Zimmer's studio. Some of you might be curious on how it was being around Trevor Morris and Hans Zimmer. Well, Trevor Morris, there was always something going on in the studio. Musicians would frequently stop by and record a cue. They would typically record in the mix room because it was a pretty good size and all the recording gear was there. We would typically get his agent and publicist stop by. Sometimes there would be producers and the writers from the TV show to kind of stop by and kind of like get updates on how the progress is going, listening to cues or just stuff like that. With Hans Zimmer, his studio is pretty big. He has 3 buildings. And one additional building for a company that he owns, a music library company. In 3 buildings, there are several composers housed there, such as Henry Jackman, who's worked on several Captain America movies, Ramin Djawadi, I'm not sure how you pronounce his last name, but anyways, he's the composer to Game of Thrones. At the time, Junkie XL was there as well. He's the composer to the 300 movies and Superman vs. Batman. And there's also other composers there as well who have, the other TV shows going on and things like that. There's another composer who is next to all these buildings. He's not affiliated with Hans, but he is Hans Zimmer's friend. It's Harry Gregson Williams. He's also right next door. During the day there's a lot of movement. There's a lot of people walking around, a lot of interns. It's a great place to meet people, meet the composers, kind of talk to them. It's also, you're exposed to all their cool gear, so you could kind of get ideas of what they use and kind of get, ideas on how to build your own studio and, things like that. And you also get a chance to actually sit in with the composers as they work, on their project. So, for instance, you could sit in with the Game of Thrones composer as he's writing a cue, and you could kind of see how things are done, and kind of get a first-hand experience on these projects and on the writing sessions. So, in this cue that I'm going to show you is a 40-second clip of a 2-minute action cue from the movie that I'm currently working on called The Tone. It stars Columbus Short, Jacqueline Fleming, and WWE wrestler Sheamus. I can't really talk about what's going on in the movie or in the scene, but I can tell you what the movie's about. It's about a former special ops soldier who shows up for work at one of the largest churches in America and then is forced to take out a team of hijackers when she realizes that her daughter's trapped inside. So in this cue, the libraries that I'm using are cinematic strings, Cinebrass, Spitfire percussion, orchestral tools, woodwinds. I am using some Arturia synths, and I did apply some EQ on my percussion tracks just to give it that punch and oomph that I was looking for. So let's just dive right into the music.
Compare Composer Demo.
So with this particular film, the director wanted to go big with the orchestra and really be high impact. So hopefully that came across. I hope you guys liked it. As I mentioned before, I didn't really add too many plugins. I did add some EQ to the percussion to add some bite and umph. I also did add some reverb from Isotope Ozone to the master track to kind of glue the ensemble together and to add a bit more decay to the overall sound, which I think makes the orchestra sound bigger. I did also add a maximizer from Isotope Ozone, just to slightly bring up the audio levels, and all while being careful not to squash the dynamics. The movie's in the final stages of post-production, so hopefully it'll be out soon. I believe the movie will be released in select theaters and iTunes, Google Play, Amazon, Target, Best Buy, all those places where people normally buy movies. Feel free to reach out to me on Facebook if you have any questions about my music or if you just want to stay in touch. You could just search, Sid Dela Cruz. You could also search the web for my YouTube channel, SoundCloud, and Vimeo. You could hear other samples of my work as well. So once again, thank you, Ruben and the Samplecast, for inviting me to the show. It's been a pleasure, and keep up the great work.
Thanks so much for tuning into the Samplecast. That was episode 46. I'll be back again next week with a new show. Bye-bye for now.